It's the countdown soundtrack to your soul. The man that has been nominated twice for a Grammy and some other great things plays great guitar. And will talk to us about the 2 new CDs. David Becker is on the line. Stand by.
Steve Edwards.
Steve Edwards.
Steve Edwards.
Steve Edwards.
On the Soul Show.
Nothing like a little DBT on your radio, and we say hi to David Becker of the David Becker Tribune back in 1990. Hello, David.
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Wow, taking me back, man. I mean, this was one of my favorite Rios from the Third Time Around album.
Oh, thank you,
DBT knocking it out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one in quite a while, because that's way back in the catalog. So
little treat for you. Yes, I thought
Yeah.
I'd give you a little treat and test those ears of yours, man.
That's nice to hear.
The whole DBT format at the time, contemporary jazz of its day. What were you guys looking to achieve?
Well, you know, the idea for the band started off with just as a trio with myself and Bruce on drums and a bass player, and we kind of followed that and are still following that. It's just to create music that's a little bit bigger than just 3 guys. In those days, we were kind of implementing a little bit more of the sequencing elements and stuff like that. And I mean, I've gone back and forth with it a little bit, but really when we play, and that's the biggest compliment I've gotten, is that we sound like a big band.
Yes,
we don't
do.
sound like 3 guys up there. And that kind of still holds true to today. And, you know, just explore composition as well as good improvisation and a good arrangements, and that's really what it's all about.
So DBT's still alive?
Still alive and still kicking. We haven't done anything in the last year and a half because my brother just had a little girl. So I've been doing a lot of solo
Bruce.
things. Yeah, I'm an uncle, which is great.
I'll be a granddaddy in 2016, so I'm counting down as well.
Congratulations. Very good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But, no, we're still active. You know, the last album was Distance Traveled, which did get a lot of play on your station. And, you know, we've got some things coming up in 2016. So I've been kind of doing a lot of solo stuff just to keep active, which is a lot of fun. But I'm looking forward to getting back with the Tribune.
And in 2015, to celebrate the release of 2 new albums, we'll kick off with the tribute to Hungarian guitarist Attila Zola, and just your experience in meeting with him and playing. Just give us a quick synopsis, David.
Yeah, I mean, I met Attila back in the 90s in Germany, and, you know, he's a big influence on lots of guys. He was Pat Metheny's only guitar teacher. And I certainly knew who he was, and it was a great compliment to play with him. And he invited me to his school in Vermont, but sadly we didn't have a chance to hook up after that one meeting. But now, years later, after his death, I produced an album of his songs, which features Ron Carter, Pat Metheny, Mike Stern, a whole lot of guys, and myself, to pay tribute to and homage to Attila Zola.
How did you get everybody together for this project, David?
Oh, man, it was really difficult. I was approached by his daughter to do this, and so I said, sure. And then it was the task, well, what do I do? So I started to call or email everybody that I know personally. Like, I know Metheny, and I know John Schofield, and Abercrombie, and Mike Stern, so I started to put the word out there. Ron Carter I did not know, but I've become friends with because of the project. And I reached out to him. He was actually the first guy to call back. So we started with 1 session in New York, and that led to 2 sessions and 3 sessions and so on and so forth. And eventually, 2 years later, we got the project done.
Look at that. And we're going to feature now Alicia's Lullaby. There must be a little story, is what I'm thinking.
There is. This is actually a song that Attila wrote for Alicia, his daughter. And I couldn't think of a better way to do it than make it actually a real lullaby by playing acoustic guitar and having cello.
Soundtrack to Your Soul. Message to Attila, the music of Attila Zola, as played by Mr. David Becker, live on the line. Beautiful stuff. Alicia's Lullaby, David. Wow.
Thank you.
Must bring back some touching moments when you put this together.
Yeah, it does, because, I mean, Attila, what I found out through Attila's music, because, you know, I knew him, I didn't know him as well as some of the guys that had played on the record, and I got to know him, but I really got to know him through his music, and I really got to see how much of a connection we had with certain kinds of things that he tended to do melodically and harmonically. So I really, you know, being inside that project for over 2 years really gave me the opportunity to dig deep in someone's soul. And I've since been to his home country of Hungary a couple of times to perform, and also in his hometown of Visegrad.
Yes.
And it was really great. Yeah, I really could feel his spirit there.
Truly something else. What do you want people to take away from this? Because in terms of his day, his time, what he was trying to do, I know he even worked with, when he went to Vienna, with Joe Zawinul, a former guest of mine.
Yeah, he worked with Joe Zawinul, Herbie Hancock, everybody. Well, I think the thing for Attila is this is a representation of his beautiful composition. You know, it wasn't just me to get a bunch of guys with, you know, great musicians to play and blow. It was more like I wanted to present nice arrangements of his tunes because he's got beautiful music. And I think the most known tune of his is The Birds and the Bees, which Pat Metheny did with Jim Hall. But, you know, he's certainly got a whole bunch of stuff that really resonates, and I think it's, you know, it withstood the test of time. And it's a great way to get to know Attila and his music through this recording.
And from your own influences, David, did this come late in terms of him being an influence for you? Because who did you grow up on guitar-wise?
Well, you know, I grew up with, you know, Wes Montgomery and you know, all the guys, all the contemporary guys that I heard back then. John Scofield was coming up, Metheny and those guys. But Joe DiOrio was a big influence, of course, because I went to GIT, and he and I actually did a record together. But, you know, everybody, Jim Hall and all those guys. Attila was there because I knew of Attila. Attila's influence on a lot of guys was that he was taking, you know, not just the traditional jazz guitar, but he was really pushing the envelope. And I didn't know a lot of his recordings, but I knew his reputation. So when I met him and played with him, I really understood what his influence was on all the guys. And if you talk to everybody from, you know, Metheny down, they'll all tell you what a great big influence Attila was, because he just had this open spirit about him, being basically from, you know, Hungary and escaping Hungary, basically with just his guitar and a little suitcase, walking over the hills to Austria before the Soviets came, and starting his career in Vienna. You know, he carried with him a long tradition of music from his family, but he also was very much looking toward the future and was exploring jazz as it was developing, you know, with everybody from Oscar Pettiford to Joe Zawinul to, you know, a long list of people. It really was.
And the release date? The
release has actually, it's been released in the United States now. It's coming out in Europe in August. But it actually was officially released on July 10th through Allegro as the distributor. It's Enja Records from Germany.
Gotcha. And we switch over because this might be a first for you. 2 releases in the same year. We move on to The Lonely Road, the current project by yourself. You've now moved into a solo setting as opposed to the usual trio elements.
Yeah,
why was that?
I did a record in 2005 called Euroland, which not many people know about, but this was an experiment of putting a lot of loop layered stuff together with, you know, synthesizers and samples. But I because I've been playing a lot of solo concerts, and I've done that throughout the career of the Tribune, once in a while I would play solo. So I wanted to capture that, and this was an opportunity to do that. So I went in the studio in January in Minneapolis when it was very cold, and I wrote 8 tunes, and I did 2 standards, and that's The Lonely Road.
Back to Your Soul, live on the phone, the new album, The Lonely Road, the title track. Excellent stuff, David Becker.
Thank you.
Do you miss the trio setting? Was this any special challenges?
I like doing both because there's challenges when you're playing solo that, I sometimes use a loop pedal and sometimes I play free, but both offer a lot of, creativity that you have to kind of get your mindset to do. So, yeah, I certainly miss playing with the trio because I enjoy the interaction with the other musicians, but it's still musically satisfying to do the solo thing.
How do you process filling the gaps where the other musicians would have been? What happens in your brain?
Well, you have to kind of hear it in your head. You become the band. It's like when you're playing solo, you have to imagine what's happening in your head that you can somehow hear it so that you can give the audience the idea that there's other instruments going on. And I can do that. I mean, the solo setting, I don't sound like one guy. Sometimes it sounds like 3 or 4 guys. So that's always a fun part of that. And I like the way the audience interacts as well because they're an integral part of either with the trio or with me solo. I'm playing off them. So there's always a second member or a fourth member regardless of what you're doing. And
how will this work live? Will you be promoting both CDs on tour?
Yeah, I will actually. I just got off a 7-week tour of Europe, and then I'm heading over back to Europe in October, and then in November I'm going down to New Zealand to do a solo tour, but it's actually a promotional tour to set up the DBT going in early 2016. And then I'll be heading down to Argentina, where I go quite often in December, and I'll be promoting both records. So,
and still teaching, no doubt.
Road, yeah, by all means.
How do you do it, man? I'm trying to work it out.
You just take it. You take it as it comes. For me, I've been doing this such a long time that I take each day as it comes, whether I'm doing a master class, a concert, or whatever it is, or a performance, or in the studio. You just look at each individual thing and just focus on that.
Is there time for family life, sleep?
Not really. I mean, I have a girlfriend who I'm very happy with, but, other than that, I have my little niece who I can visit when I have time. But I live out of a suitcase, which is, I enjoy it, though. I mean, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I get to do this, so I don't take it for granted one minute.
And Brothers in Arms with Bruce on the drums.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt you've been playing together since you were youth.
Yeah, since we were little kids. I mean, and our relationship musically still continues to grow. It's one of the most satisfying musical relationships I've ever had, and it's just a joy to sit and play with him, and that we've been able to share, playing in over 20 countries around the world for the last 30 years is really a blessing. Just
to close out, notice you've got a couple of jazz standards on here. We're going to close out with Corcovado, the Jobim classic, one of my favorites as well. Again, in putting jazz standards in the mix of this album, why was that choice made?
Because when I play solo, I sometimes draw from those particular pieces, and I'd actually been doing for master classes. Students had asked me, "Hey, can you show me a chord melody for this tune?" And I never worked one out, so I showed one of the guys down in Argentina what he could do with Corcovado, and then I thought to myself, "Well, I can play that," and I sort of expanded on it and thought I would just go lay it down in the studio. Same thing with My Foolish Heart. So we have done over the years 1 or 2 or 3 standards once in a while, and it's part of what I grew up with, and I want to include it in the vocabulary as well. So.
Well, David, we can only say thank you. Congratulations on the double release of both CDs. Good luck with everything that happens on the road, and keep the music coming, my brother.
I certainly will, and if I get a chance to come to Vegas, I'd love to come in the studio and play live for you all, so maybe we can work that out.
Look forward to that, Dave. We'll make that a promise, shall we?
Oh, we certainly will.